go. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to just introduce myself. My name is Aarav Makadia, and I'm the president at the Internatus Business Club of New Jersey, also commonly referred to as IBCNJ. I'm also a junior at Monroe Township High School here in the greater New Jersey area. And so on behalf of all our partners and other affiliates, I'd like to welcome everyone here today. I'm honored to have a panel of current Wharton and Penn students and alums who will be sharing more about their experiences surrounding Wharton and the University of Pennsylvania. However, a couple of things before we start. Should any of you guys and all of our members here today find yourself curious or unaware about anything we discussed throughout the duration of the event, please feel free to direct any and all of your questions to Jeremy Slaten in the chat. We'll be leading our final Q&A session towards the end of the panel. Also, for those of you who might be tuning in online, the Internatus Business Club, or IBC, is a national non-for-profit collection of business clubs consisting of emerging student leaders. IBC members have access to selective networking events, workshops, quarterly business forums, as well as exclusive scholarship and internship opportunities at select partners across the country, as well as community initiatives that are particularly unique in financial literacy. And so for more information about that, feel free to check out internatus.org. And so without further ado, let me allow our speakers to introduce themselves. I believe first up, we have Louis.
Am I unmuted? Great, can you guys hear me properly? Awesome. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Louis Davis. I am currently, a former Penn grad, graduated from the class of 2020. So shout out to the COVID class, making it out here. I am currently an associate language strategist working for Meslansky and Partners, which is a media messaging and consulting firm based here in New York City. But prior to that, like I said, I was a Penn student. I was majoring in communications with a minor in journalistic writing out of specifically the Annenberg School of Communications at the College at the University of Pennsylvania. And prior to that, I was an international student. I was born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica before coming to the United States to study at Penn. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for everyone for having me and looking forward for our discussion today.
Awesome. So next up, we have Mike.
All right. Thank you, Aarav. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. I am a sophomore at UPenn. I study mechanical engineering as well as Chinese and finance. As you can tell from this slide, I'm an incoming investment banking summer analyst at Bank of America, and I'm happy to be here and speak with you guys today, answer any questions you have.
So last but not least, Derek.
Hey, can everyone hear me all right? Oh,
yep.
Sorry, camera's not on. All right, can everyone see and hear me?
Yep.
Wonderful. Yeah, really great to be here. My name is Derek New. I'm also a student in Wharton. Right now I'm studying management with a specialization in organizational effectiveness, as well as social impact. I'm in a couple other programs at Penn too. I'm in the Padilla program at Penn, which focuses on civic engagement. And I'm also a Joseph Wharton scholar. So that's just kind of like research oriented around different business practices and such. So yeah, I'm really glad to be here. I'm actually from the Villages, Florida, but I'm actually in Philly at the moment. So it's really great to talk to you guys.
Perfect. So now that we know more about our panelists, I'd like to pass it off to Zain, who will be conducting the most of our questions here before we lead into the Q&A.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I am Zain Sohail. I am the Director of Strategic Initiatives for IBC New Jersey. So basically what we'll just be doing is we have a few pre-planned questions for you guys to answer, and then we'll be going into our Q&A. And just to reiterate, anyone in the audience for the Q&A, please direct all your questions to Jeremy Slaten, because we will be doing that after. And then for the questions, since we do have a lot of panels today and we want to have the most time for the Q&A, we'll be skipping 2 questions. We'll be doing questions 1, 3, and 5 so no one gets confused. And finally, just for speaking, we'll go in the same order as you guys introduce yourselves. So I believe it was Louis, Mike, James, Simona, then Derek. So our first question is, why did you really choose to go to Penn, and ultimately are you happy with this choice? So Louis, you can get started.
Sure. So my reason for going to Penn was largely financial. I was a low income student, and then coming from an international background where the exchange rate is largely against Jamaicans. I largely would not have been able to attend Penn if it wasn't thanks to a great financial aid package that I was given. And that was really and truly my driving factor for going to Penn. And I think that's probably the biggest driving factor for a lot of low income students. I was very much so prepared to attend anywhere that was willing to have me and anywhere that was willing to subsidize my education. And out of all the schools that I applied to, Penn came back with the most lucrative package. And that kind of like informed, well, basically forced my hand to go to Penn. At the end of the day, I was very much so happy with my Penn experience because while I didn't know much about Penn going into it, the prospect of going to an Ivy League school was always super exciting. And I ended up at Annenberg, which largely kind of was a point of fate for me because I came into Penn studying economics as most people do. That quickly went south. And so getting directed into communications and then being at the school that happens to have the foremost communications program in the world was just kind of like a stroke of good luck for me. So finances and just really wanting to pursue my tertiary education was really the reason that led me to Penn.
All right, it's my turn, isn't it, right?
Yep.
Okay. So my reasons for going to Penn, I remember, the process that I'm sure a lot of you are going through right now, and I apologize that you guys have to deal with that. But I think the reason I wanted to go to Penn was because of the program that Simona is actually in, M&T. I was so set on doing business and mechanical engineering. And those were really the two interests that I was straddling at that point in time. I ended up not getting into M&T, and I actually think it wouldn't have been the right balance for me. But I'm really happy that I went to Penn because it's a place where let's say you choose something like economics as one second. As Lewis was saying before, and then you want to change what you study, you're not going to change into a program that's not a world-renowned program. You're going to change into another world-renowned program. And so there's just so many different facets of excellence at Penn. And that makes it a really amazing place, not only because the thing that you want to study is being researched so intensely, but also the things that your friends study are going to be, at the top of their field. And so that makes for some really interesting conversations and such. On a side note, my parents went to Penn too. And it was funny because they never brought it up in the college applications process. And, you might expect them to. And I actually thought they maybe didn't because they just didn't like it there or something, but they just didn't want to push me one way or the other. But in the end, I got to Penn. I love it here, not only because of the academics, but also because of the social balance that you have here. A lot of students, particularly in engineering, and this isn't the case at all engineering schools, we like to work hard, but we also like to have a good time on the weekends and socialize with each other. And I think that's a huge value add because ultimately, you're not just choosing the place that stamps a degree for you at the end of 4 years, you're choosing where you live. And that's, I guess, what I would have to say about why I chose Penn and am I happy with my choice.
So finally, Derek.
Yeah, so kind of similar to Michael, where I lived in Florida wasn't very diverse. So for context, I live in the world's largest gated retirement community. As you may expect, I'm pretty sure last time I checked, the demographic was like 97% white. So I literally I feel like I was like one of the token Asian kids at my school. There weren't very many minorities around, I feel like, but diversity in general, not just I guess racially and culturally and ethnically, but I think there was also a lack of diversity of ideas and interests and passions. So coming to Penn, I feel like knowing what I knew and how I felt in high school, it was kind of like, wow, like the world's your oyster kind of a moment for me. Those, as cliche as it sounds, there was just so much opportunity and so many things to do at Penn that I feel like I really dived headfirst into student life and the community. I kind of wanted to get my hands on everything because, like, wow, I feel like I was missing out on this. I feel like I've never seen this before. I feel like I didn't know this was, but it seems super cool. And I really, I guess I went kind of crazy, not a bad way, but I was like getting involved in everything because I was like, this is super like sick. There's so many different people here. Even like day one, like my roommate is actually from Australia. I think I've met my first ever person from Arkansas, which even might be more exotic than Australia. So just so many people, even my freshman year friend group, we had people who were international students, people from all across like the West Coast, East Coast, like Midwest, people all across the country. And for me, that just made me very excited. And as a person, I feel like coming to Penn has really helped to open my worldview a bit, and really help continue to develop me as a person. And I think also, whereas I was already kind of attuned to opportunity before, now I just feel very like excited about things in general. And I feel like my attitude, I think, is more like a let's try it, why not type of attitude, instead of a, oh, I don't like that, or maybe that's not my thing type of attitude. And definitely at Penn, there's so much exploring you can do both inside, outside the classroom. And I feel like as a person, that's made me really kind of want to learn everything I can and meet as many people as I can. And also, I guess, travel. I feel like that was something for me too. I was like not really interested in traveling in high school, but now I'm like, oh, let's just go across the state, like very casually. So yeah, definitely the community has really just made me happier. I honestly feel like I'm much happier here than I was in Florida. And honestly, that's kind of the most important part. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think it wraps it up for that question. So we will be going straight to question number 5. So as we are all high schoolers, a lot of us going into the application process either right now or in the next year, what advice would you give to a prospective student going through that process? So Louis, you could begin.
That's a loaded question. I would have to say, or I'm going to answer specifically as it relates to Penn. I think a lot of people, when it comes on to Ivy Leagues and top schools, think that all that matters when it comes on to your applications are your grades. How high is your SAT score, or how high is your ACT score? And yes, that is very important, but you have to think about it from the perspective of an admissions officer and the thousands of applications that they're going to field every day. Everybody's going to have high SAT or ACT scores. They're going to go across maybe 100 perfect scores a day. So what is it about your application? What is it about your academic and extracurricular career leading up to this point that you apply to Penn is really going to make you stand out and say, wow, that's something interesting. At Meslansky, we have, as a language strategy firm, we no longer talk about culture fits, but we talk about culture adds and value adds when we go through our hiring process. So what is it about your application, and what is it about you as a person that's going to make a Penn admissions officer say, this person is unique. This is a value add for our community here at Penn that we need to have in order to grow the Penn brand and make us go further as a community and as an institution. Because at the end of the day, when it comes on to admissions officers, that's what they're really looking for. What is going to make us stand out? Specifically, what's going to make us look better compared to like Princeton or Cornell? That's a we're not getting into that right now, but yeah, I would say keep that in mind when you're going through your application, and also to try and really put your honest self on the paper. You don't want to come across as robotic. You don't want to make it seem like you're answering the questions that or giving the answers that they want to hear. What is the answers, or what is the story of you that is truest to you, that's going to make them say, I get the sense of who this person is, what they're trying to achieve, and where they want to go, and how Penn can help with that, and ultimately make the community, the institution, or the world a better place. It's almost a bit of pretension in the way that we think of ourselves as an institution, as communities, but we do see ourselves as world leaders, as Penn alums or as part of the Penn communities. We do think about ourselves as being, one of us is going to be the person who eventually cures cancer or is the next Elon Musk or whatever. So what is it in your application that's going to prove to someone that you have the capabilities of doing that, or you have the intention of doing that? That is what you would really need to put on your application, and then just hope for the best. Honestly, I feel partly that it is skill, but then again, I feel like partly it is also somewhat random. We really don't know what the metric is, but at the end of the day, just really try to lay all your cards out, put your best foot forward, and just tell the most honest and honestly impressive story of yourself, and dot your T's, cross your I's, and just hope for the best.
So Mike, you're next. You go.
All right. Excellent. Wow. You're really putting me back into your shoes. I remember doing college applications and I was not a fan. But I think that this is actually a pretty good opportunity for a couple of things. You know, as Lewis was saying, the application or the admissions officers are going to be thinking about how you would interact with other students at Penn. What would you be like as a student at Penn? And they really want to know that information rather than like just your test scores or something like that. Because like, let's say like you don't want to be the student who is, maybe they do the problem set, but they never want to work with anyone else and they like don't talk to anyone else. That's just not a value add to the Penn community. The person who's interacting, like helping other people with their homework, you know, having those interesting, I guess, conversations that can change the way you think about things. That's a value adding student at Penn. Now, this I would say is like an opportunity for you not only to join one of those communities, and those communities exist not only at Penn, but also at a lot of other great schools, but it's also an opportunity for you to think about yourself. In these essays, you know, what's not effective is listing things off. Oh, I joined this club, and in this club I do this, and in the next club I also do this, and then this is my role here, blah, blah, blah. It's just like that's just like a resume. But if you can tell a story about yourself as a person and like why Penn is the next logical step in your journey, wherever that may be, I think that's a lot more compelling. The last thing I would say is like, don't worry. If you don't get into Penn, if you don't get into your top school, it's gonna be all right. You know, I think the main focus of this conversation has been business and like investment banking, consulting, etc., that sort of thing. I know a lot of people who have come from different schools, perhaps some would say like non-target schools, who've gotten the same roles that, you know, Simona and I and Louis and other people are getting. So it's really about like, I guess, how far you want to push yourself. And that's not really going to be limited by what school you go to. But at the same time, Penn is an awesome place, and just put your best foot forward.
Yeah, I'll
lead Eric.
Yeah, not to kind of repeat what everyone's already been saying, but I can actually tell you like what Penn's looking for, because I work with admissions officers. I also was able to see my admissions file about 2 cycles ago. So unless they changed it, which I kind of doubt, everything's kind of be similar, at least I'm hoping. So first things first, in terms of what has come out of the mouth of actual admissions officers I've worked with in terms of Wharton, what they've said to like potential students in terms of tours and stuff is 2 specific things. It's not the only things, but there are 2 things that will really help you in your admissions to Wharton. First, they really want to see that you're involved in leadership in some regard. That sounds kind of vague, but in terms of, I guess, that they want to see that you're taking leadership positions in your extracurriculars. And also, I think that they prefer quality over quantity. They would rather you be involved in a few things, but you're, like leading those events and making a genuine impact compared to just being a member. The second thing that they also explicitly said is that they're looking for people with a strong math background, especially for Wharton. So if you have a strong math background, that's wonderful. That's going to help you get in. So those were the two things that I remember that what they were telling prospective students. In terms of the actual admissions file, again, I'm not sure if they changed it from my cycle. And there's really not much on it because they take off all the juicy stuff after they're done. But for me, they were essentially saying you basically get 3 scores. And they're not necessarily arbitrary scores. They're actual relatively significant scores. So your first score is going to be your academic strength on a scale of 1 to 4, 4 being the highest. In terms of how they calculate that, I'm assuming it's from your GPA, it's from your test scores, it's from all that stuff. And I'll just be transparent. I got a 3. And then I wasn't like the best student in terms of like, I guess test scores. I think I was pretty up there, but just for reference, because I know like I really didn't understand how strong I would stack up to other candidates, especially in the process, especially as a first-generation low-income student. So there's that. I think the second one was kind of like your impact score from 1 to 6, with 6 being the highest. And this is essentially how much impact you've had on your school and community. I think this kind of translates back to what they're looking for in terms of like student life and how they want you to get involved and really being like a citizen of Penn. So that's going to really, I think, come from your extracurriculars. I'm also pretty sure that probably comes from depending on the certain things you write about and your involvements. And your last score was kind of like your aptitude for Penn score. I forgot the exact name for it. But essentially it was a scale of 1 to 4. And it was kind of seeing how well would you actually fit in at Penn. And in terms of how they probably do that, I'm sure it's probably your actual essays you write, so they can gauge your personality, how well they think you'd fit in. And I'm assuming also here, I don't know if your family like donated a building or something, right? But yes, so that was what I got from my actual admissions file. Again, I'm not sure if they've changed it since then. But I guess that's more some of the technical details I can tell you. And in terms of what the admissions officer said, this was this past year. So it's still very recent. I don't think it's like changed just yet. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have. And like everyone else, same thing. Like you really want to do your work. You want to do your research. Penn really wants to see that you're not just like shotgunning other schools. They really want to see that you're applying to Penn specifically. So that's, again, taking your time to write specific essays for Penn and taking time to kind of demonstrate, again, beyond your grades, beyond whatever you're involved in, that you would like belong and fit in at Penn. And that should kind of dictate the way you like approach things like your application, especially your essays, because I think people underestimate the impact that those have. I feel like I actually got into Penn because of my Common App essay. And that's just a consideration you'll have to make. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have. Just do your research, do your work.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, that was our last pre-planned question, and that was all those answers were very insightful. And one thing I'd like to say, Derek, I absolutely love your background. And so now I'll just be segueing into Jeremy, who will be conducting a quick Q&A.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Jeremy Slaten. I am a junior at the Bergen County Academies in the Academy for Business and Finance and the vice president for IBC New Jersey. Just to echo everybody, thank you to our panelists as well as our members for coming out to this event. And so let's begin the Q&A session. The questions are posed to all the panelists, and for the sake of time, we're just gonna have one person answer the questions, and they will be also sent in the chat for your reference as well. So our first question comes from Rachel, and she asks, how do you think your high school extracurriculars and coursework prepared you for Penn? So again, anybody can answer this.
I can take this. I think a lot of my extracurriculars were centered around working with other people, and that is absolutely the name of the game at Penn. I like to see everyone, so I switch from the speaker view to the gallery. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like if you don't work with other people at Penn, you're not going to be as successful as you could be. Good example, I remember a coding assignment that I had for mechanical engineering freshman year. Me and 9 other students all got together at the library and we did it in 2 hours, and we like chatted and had fun. And then we had friends who took 9, 8, and 11 hours respectively to do the same assignment. That's a night of sleep and a night out. That's terrible. Like if you're not being efficient about how you do your work, your quality of life, like the goals that you're able to achieve, every other aspect of your life is going to like be like, I guess, depleted. So it's the name of the game would just be like working with other people. And that's something that I got from academics in high school and extracurriculars as well.
All right, so I believe we are closing in on time. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. I want to say for all our members, more information about some of our subsequent events will be provided soon via Slack. For many of you who might be tuning in online, who may be interested in becoming a member of IBC, please feel free to check out any of our national chapters at internatus.org/apply. I want to take a moment to thank all of our members for coming and all of the panelists for taking this time out of their day to speak for us. It was very insightful, not just for me, but for all of our members. And I personally always appreciate a diverse group of experiences, as do many. And so to end things off, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the week, and I thank everyone for joining us today.